Today I want to talk about fasting. Now there are 3 points I want to cover about fasting today. The first is fasting produces holiness. The second is fasting starves the flesh, which strengthens your spirit, allowing you to discern God's will better. And thirdly, fasting is not a work. First point is this: fasting is a way to separate yourself, to seek God, which is the same thing as praying. Like praying and fasting, they both separate yourself to have purer communion with God. Jesus expects us to do both, because in one of the Gospels, he's like, when you pray, when you fast. So it's not like if you pray or fast. It's when you do these things. Fasting is a way to separate yourself further, I guess, to show yourself and to show God and I guess the universe that you're really seeking holiness. It's also psychological as well, because if you demonstrate to yourself that you're fasting, you're going out your way to not eat food for the sake of having a better relationship with God, your psychology will naturally want to seek God more in the future, because that's just more ingrained into your identity now. Fasting has physical, emotional and spiritual benefits, whereas praying, I guess, it doesn't really have any physical benefits apart from having the discipline to sit there for however long you want to pray for. So many scientists say that fasting benefits diseases autoimmune issues. I think there are scientific research papers where it's people with arthritis, if they fast, their arthritis goes away, and that's really well documented. It also has emotional and spiritual benefits. Fasting doesn't have to be with food. Anything you abstain from or deny the flesh for a chosen period of time, however long you want, that can be considered as fasting. So for example, fasting from games, if you play games a lot, fasting from social media, from entertainment, alcohol, even people. In fact, the most kind of powerful forms of fasting are fasting from people and from food. And I think why is because as humans, as animals, as Homo sapiens, our baseline requirements in the flesh are to have food and to have a community. If you think about when we were in caveman times, if we didn't have food, then obviously we're dead. And if we didn't have a community, if we were just by ourselves in the wilderness, then some bear or some pack of lions could easily just kill us. And so when you deny yourself from these things, you're really that's the baseline in your flesh, and you're denying that from your flesh, so you're really weakening your flesh. Other things I don't know, alcohol, that's the cherry on top for your flesh. Your flesh can live without that, but with food and people, your flesh really starts to freak out. If you look in the Bible, when Jesus was in the wilderness, he fasted 40 days from people and from food. When Moses went up the mountain to get 10 commandments, he fasted from people and from food. Pretty sure Elijah did that. John the Baptist, pretty much I swear he fasted from people most of his life, because he was just chilling in the wilderness. Fasting is such a spiritual practice. Even non-Christians understand the power of fasting. It's a long story, but I'm in Mauritius right now. I've done this internship there here recently, and in Mauritius, it's a very religious community. There are lots of Muslims, there are lots of Hindus as well. Recently, the Muslims have started Ramadan, where they basically if you're a Muslim, correct me, but I think Ramadan is basically they don't eat when the sun's up, and then when the sun's down, or maybe in Saudi, they compare everything to Saudi Arabia. So in Saudi Arabia, when the sun's up, all the Muslims in the world can't eat, and then when the sun's down, that's when they do that for a month, which is which Christian has ever done that? It puts us to shame. And also Hindus, this cleaner at my workplace, she's a Hindu, and sometimes I'd like offer her some food and she'd be like, no, I'm fasting. And like, she also meditates. It just puts Christians to shame, honestly, because we should be the people, like, pioneering the spiritual, like, the most spiritual people in the world. But like, that's just not true. Like, we're literally the most, like, the least, or maybe, I don't know, the Jews are pretty unspiritual. The point is, fasting is a very powerful spiritual practice that all religions use to like reap the benefits from it. Second point is this: starving the flesh makes your flesh crave something else. When I first started fasting, like a few years ago, I had no idea how to fast. I would just be like, right, I'm not gonna eat for a day or like 2 days, and like that'd be it. Like that's all I think about. Like just don't eat, and then maybe God will do something in my life. The thing is, like, in retrospect, I would remember, like, I would fast, I would not eat, but then like every time when I would get back for like lunch break at school, I would just like scroll on the Snapchat stories and like look at the chefs cooking the food, or like watch like stupid YouTube videos and stuff. I denied the flesh from food, but then I was feeding it from like entertainment and like watching these like mukbang videos. The point of fasting is you deny you feeding your flesh, so that you can draw your energy from God, from inside you, from your spirit. So instead of getting energy from the external to feed your flesh, you're getting it from the internal through your spirit, via your spirit from God. And by doing so, it strengthens your spirit and it weakens your flesh. And by doing that, it makes you more able to discern the will of God for your life. I think in the Bible somewhere it says like, do your very best to like discern the will of God for your life. Like, I'll put the verse up on the screen, but the point is, it's something we have to do. It's something we have to actively go about trying to do, discerning God's will for us. And fasting really helps us with that. In fact, it's probably the most powerful way of doing that, like, other than praying, of course, which every Christian should be doing every day anyway. In Acts, when Paul and Barnabas were set apart to go on their mission, all the right, there's a motorbike. Alright, but anyways, the disciples all were like fasting and stuff, and I think it's so they could deny their flesh, so they'd be able to hear God's word better. Just as like maybe loads of disciples were like, yeah, I think that Paul and Barnabas should go on this mission trip, but they weren't like 100% sure. So then they just like fasted and stuff, and then probably the Holy Spirit, maybe even audibly, like said, "Set apart for me, Paul and Barnabas." And that's the point. I saw this thing on Instagram like a few weeks ago, and it was this guy talking about fasting, and he said that fasting kind of tunes your spiritual, like, on the radio when you have to tune it to get the right frequency for the radio channel. Like it kind of, fasting tunes your radio to be able to hear, like, to get into God's frequency. That means you can hear God better. And like the point this guy was making in the Instagram video was that everyone can be prophets. Like, it's not like some like people were like born special, or like everyone has the potential to have like a prophetic gift and like hear like regularly from God. But the problem is, we aren't in that God frequency. We're like in like the fleshly human frequency, and so we can't hear from God like that much. Sometimes the Holy Spirit, like for our sake, really dives down the frequency to tell us something. But like the point is, fasting changes us from this natural frequency to this supernatural frequency, which allows us to hear from God better. And it's also interesting about how fasting gives us energy from the inside, because in the Bible, when Jesus was, after he spoke to that Samaritan woman, he was like to his disciples, I have food that you guys don't know about. my food is to do God's will, or something like that. When he says that, he doesn't say it as like to like make them annoyed or anything. Like, he literally means that. Like, he literally means he's not hungry because he's being filled up with the energy of God, because he's doing God's will. That's the thing with fasting, because when you fast, it forces you to rely on God. And so by forcing yourself to rely on God, you have to become aligned with his will. That's the beauty of fasting, because it kind of makes you have to rely on God. I kind of want to talk about the third point now, which is fasting isn't a work. But also, like, the main point of this point is like how you guys should fast, or like how we should fast. So the point is that fasting isn't a work. Like, it's just like praying. Like, do people say praying is a work? No. Like, it's just part of like your communion with God. And that's the same thing with fasting. Like, fasting is just part of your communion with God. But the point is, like, all these religious people, like, maybe some people say it's fasting is like a work. Like, oh, like, why are you saying that you can get benefits by fasting? That means you're like working for blessings. And it's like, you know, when you pray, like, do you consider that as works? Like, yeah, like, it is working. Like, fasting is like working, it says, but James tells us that faith without works is dead. And at the same time, like, fasting is not a work. Like, it should be baseline for us. Like, as Christians, it should be part of our life. It should be like what we do as Christians. And if you think about it, it's what humans should do. Like, humans should be doing fasting and prayer, like, when we were first made in this earth. Because as cavemen, when we would have no animals to eat from in one day, or like we wouldn't find any berries on this day, like, we would have no food, so we'd have to fast. The same thing is with prayer. Like prayer is just communion with God. Like, when we were first made, we were in the Garden of Eden. We were communing with God every day. And so, like, every second of our lives in the Garden of Eden. The point of fasting and prayer is not like to go beyond your human nature. It's literally to go back to baseline. Like, we are fallen people. Like, we're like underneath our baseline. And so fasting is literally going back to that baseline. It's not like doing extra works for extra blessings. It's just returning to what we should be doing anyway. When it comes to fasting, when you're actually fasting, the crucial thing is, like, you shouldn't be complaining when you're fasting, because then like, there has no benefit. It's just a fly attacking my ceiling light. But anyways, like, you shouldn't be complaining. Like, for example, when I fast for like 1 or 2 days, it's not really bad. Like, I can control my thoughts. I can win the battle in my mind, and I'll talk about that in a second. But like, for example, Jesus fasted 40 days. If I were to fast 40 days, like, I would probably be dead. There's no way I could fast 40 days. Like, and it wouldn't bring any benefits to me, because like, I would just be so like sad and like complaining every day for like, I don't know, maybe the first 2 days I'd be chilling, but then after that, like, I'd just be so sad. The point is, fasting it should be hard, because it is hard. Like, it's a discipline, but it should be like just out your comfort zone, not like really out your comfort zone. Just out your comfort zone, so that you have to rely on God. Not too much, so it's ridiculous. A lot of people do like 3-day fast, which is like, I don't know, it's pretty good. Although, I don't know, I've never done that before. I should do that, to be honest. But the most I've done is like 2 days. The point is, you shouldn't be complaining when you're fasting. There are different realms of glory when it comes to fasting. When you fast, you're kind of stripping away that baseline fleshly layer of food. So then when you strip that away, your flesh kind of gets like all moody and stuff. And so you'll hear like things in your head going like, oh, Ben, you know, give me some food, like, or like, I want to watch this YouTube video, or like, I wanna like watch this movie. Your flesh will want to fill itself with other things when you don't fill it with food. And so when you have to watch yourself, because when that happens, you have to say no, and then like draw your energy from God, because that's where the effectiveness of fasting comes. Like, when you win those emotional battles. That's when it brings the biggest benefit. If you fail to control these desires, it's not bad. Like if you simply say no to one of these desires when you fast, that's a win. Like I would count that as a win. You know, if you do manage if you control your thoughts, that's even better, like all your thoughts. But the point is, like, you know, it's a practice. It's like going to the gym. Like you get better as you keep on doing it. For me, I always set myself mentally like a reason why I'm fasting. For example, like a few weeks ago, I had a dream of like the spirit of Jezebel like attacking me, and so I woke up kind of like scared, and I was like, I'm gonna fast today. I was kind of just praying like, God, like protect me send angels to protect me from the spirit of Jezebel. And like the next night, like I was fine. I think when you fast, you should always declare to God and yourself and to the universe why you're fasting. You can then kind of see it when God delivers you from whatever problem you have. This is just a quick, not really quick teaching of fasting. I wanted this to be like 5 minutes, but it's literally been like 20 minutes. But yeah, just to summarize, I think every Christian should fast. It's honestly the best thing you guys should do for yourselves. Just to summarize, the first point is fasting produces holiness. And in the Bible, God says, if you're holy, then I will use you for my special purposes. Like, you know that thing in Timothy about the utensils some made being out of silver, some made out of wood. And like, if you keep yourself pure and holy, you'll be like ready for every good work. Fasting makes you more holy, which is good. So God can use you more. Fasting starves the flesh, strengthens your spirit, which allows you to discern God's will better for your life. Thirdly, fasting is not a work. Fasting shouldn't be a work. You should never complain. It shouldn't be too difficult, but you should be able to have self-control. Hope this video helps. Let me know what you guys think, if you guys are going to try fasting. And yeah, God bless you guys, and see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around.